Hey YouTube, welcome to Dragon's Dojo Gaming. Andrew Sellers here. Once again, please like and subscribe for more content. And I will continue to bring more with what's yet to come for this channel. And I am about to show you all my GOAT format deck profile, so get ready. And this is my third GOAT deck that I have. So first up, the boss monster of the deck, Blackluster Soldier Envoy of the Beginning. As you all know, he requires banishing a light and a dark from your graveyard to special summon from your hand. And his two other effects are, once per turn you can banish an opponent's target an opponent's monster and banish it. Well, any monster on the board, period. And it cannot declare an attack the turn you banish a monster with his ability. And his other effect says, if it destroys an opponent's monster in battle, it can make a second attack in a row. So yeah, he's a 30k double attacker, and he banishes stuff. So yeah, he's the boss monster of the deck because he's really easy to summon, and he has the highest attack points of every monster on the field. Next up, one Jinzo. He's a dark monster. He's a dark monster with solid attack and negates all traps on the board. Next up, one copy of one of the best cards in this format, in my opinion, Sinister Serpent. So when he's sent to the graveyard, he goes back to your hand during your next standby phase. And another thing that's useful about this guy is that he's a Metamorphosis target for Thousand Eyes Restrict in this deck. There's a lot you can do with Sinister Serpent. Next up, one copy of Air Knight Parsef, a light attribute 19k beater that inflicts piercing damage, and if it inflicts battle damage to the opponent, you get to draw a card. It's just a really good card overall. Next up, one Blade Knight. If you have 1 or 0 cards in your hand, he gets plus 400 attack. And if it's the only monster on your board and attacks an opponent's monster, well, an opponent's set monster, the effects of the monster of the set monster it attacked are negated. Next up, one copy of DD Warrior Lady. If she battles an opponent's monster, and if you choose to, you can banish her and the monster it's battling. One Breaker the Magical Warrior. He's a walking MST for the deck, and he gets plus 300 attack if he has a spell counter on him. One Sangan. He's one of the best searchers in this deck, and he's a dark monster. He adds any monster from your deck to your hand that has up to 1500 attack. And as far as I can remember, it's used in every deck that can search for 15 or lower attack monsters. It's pretty much a staple card in every deck that can search quite a bit of monsters that have 1500 or less attack. One Spirit Reaper. So he cannot be destroyed in battle. If he inflicts battle damage to your opponent, you can choose an opponent's card from your hand and rip it right out. Discard it, but I like to say rip it right out. And if it's targeted by a card effect, it gets destroyed immediately. Next up, 2 copies of Tsukuyomi. So, since she's a spirit monster, she can't be special summoned, and during your end phase, she goes to your hand if she's still face up on your board. And when she's summoned, you can target a monster on either player's field and set it face down. One Ashera Priest, he can attack every monster on your opponent's field and has 1700 attack. So that's pretty useful. And he's a spirit monster like Sook, so it goes to your hand if he's face up on your board. Please excuse my cat. 2 copies of Night Assailant. If Night Assailant is discarded from your hand, you choose a flip effect monster from your graveyard and add it to your hand. I use him in all 3 of my goat decks, and he's a really good card. And there's a lot of neat combos you can pull off with him too. 1 Dakoichi. When he's flip summoned, you draw a card. Other than it being a dark monster, that's all there really is to him. That and being a 14k beater. Finally, 2 copies of Magician of Faith. In my opinion, the best flip effect monster in this deck. Free spell recycling is just too good to pass up. And now for the spell cards, I'm about to show off 3 copies of why this deck is GOAT format and GOAT control, and why this format is called GOAT format. 3 Scapegoat. There's just so much you can do with Scapegoat in this format. Protect yourself, destroy all your tokens to gain life points from Token Thanksgiving, and tribute 1 of it as a Metamorphosis target for Thousand Eyes Restrict. It's a really good card. And now for the spells. And now for 3 of the staple spells. Pot of Greed, Graceful Charity, and Snatch Steel. Self-explanatory why all 3 of these spell cards are in the deck. Next up, 2 Metamorphosis. Next up, 2 Noblemen of Crossout. With this card, you can target an opponent's set monster, destroy and banish it, and then and if it ends up being a flip effect monster, both players send as many flip effect monsters from their deck with the same name as that monster from their deck as possible. It's a pretty broken card in this format. And now, Heavy Storm and Giant Trunade. Heavy Storm's a staple in this deck. Giant Trunade I actually use as a personal tech choice. Not only is it good for sending the opponent's back row to their hand, another thing it's good for is sending Premature Burial from your spell and trap zone back to your hand. Because if you've already revived a monster, you can keep that monster on your board, and then you can use Premature Burial to resurrect another monster from your graveyard. It's just such a good card. Like, in my opinion, Giant Trunade's just a great tech choice to have in the deck. 1 MST, self-explanatory card. 1 Premature Burial, another self-explanatory card. 2 Book of Moon, one of the best quick play spells in this format in my opinion. 1 Lightning Vortex, you discard a card from your hand and destroy all face-up monsters on your opponent's board. And finally, another tech choice I use in this deck, 1 copy of Enemy Controller. With this card, you can change the battle position of an opponent's monster, and its other effect, if you choose to use it, is you can tribute a monster from your field, then target an opponent's monster and take control of it for the turn. Pretty sweet card and pretty underrated in this format, if you'd ask me. Now for traps. 1 Mirror Force, staple trap for this deck. Next up, 1 Torrential Tribute, another staple trap. 1 Sakuretsu Armor, destroys an opponent's attacking monster for free. Basically, budget Mirror Force. 1 Ring of Destruction. Target a face-up monster on your opponent's field. Destroy, actually either player's field. Destroy it, and both players take damage equal to that monster's attack. Actually, no, it's attack. I thought it was original attack for a sec, but this is the errated effect of the card. And finally, for traps in the main deck, Call of the Haunted and Dust Tornado. Call of the Haunted's there as another revival card. Dust Tornado destroys back row, and if you have any spells or traps in your hand that you can set after using Dust Tornado, you can set those cards. I feel like Dust Tornado might be one of the reasons why MST's at 1 in older formats. I could be wrong though. Now for the side deck, 2 copies of Mystic Swordsman level 2. He's there as a walking nobleman. 1 Penguin Soldier, personal tech choice for the side deck. And this card is quite tricky to deal with. 2 creature swap. You choose a monster on your field and your opponent chooses one on theirs, and they exchange the monsters. And for the rest of the turn you have activated creature swap, the player cannot switch that specific monster's battle position. Actually, yeah, I was right. Next up, 1 Swords of Revealing Light. A side card I mainly use for Pac-Man and for beatdown decks. Another copy of Enemy Controller. 1 copy of Book of Moon. 1 Magic Cylinder, helps deal damage. I mainly use it against beatdown decks. 2 Raigeki Break. You discard a card and destroy a card on the field. It's pretty free if you'd ask me. 1 Ceasefire. When you activate this card, all set monsters flip face up, and then the opponent takes 500 damage for every effect monster on the board. 1 Dust Tornado. And finally, 2 copies of 7 Tools of the Bandit. You pay 1,000 to negate a trap. And it's a counter trap, so it can't be negated unless from another counter trap. Finally, for the fusion deck, 1 copy of Dark Balter. He's there to negate spells. 1 copy of Fiendskull Dragon. And finally, 3 copies of the best fusion monster in this deck, Thousand Eyes Restrict. He likes to eat stuff and gain their attack. Om nom. So that is it for my GOAT format deck profile. I hope you all liked it. Once again, please like and subscribe for more content, and I wish you all a good night.